Hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. Thanks for tuning in today. You guys have found me at my little corner of the internet today. I'm pleased to have an off the bencher on the show with me today. Jessica Levson is here, and she is running for the state house in Missouri in District 62. You guys, we got to get involved if we want to see change in our country. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. All right, you guys, so I'm glad that you're here today. We are slowly moving our way through the month of June, and I am so excited to see many of you reaching out to me to kind of tell me what you're doing and how you're getting off the bench and onto the battlefield. It's just exciting and encouraging. Today, I'm going to have a guest on the show who's doing exactly that. Jessica Levson is here. She's a mom of 5. And she is also a candidate for Missouri State Representative in District 62. You guys, this is a major deal. One does not simply just run for office. There's so many reasons why I think this is exciting just to have somebody here who is willing to lay it all on the line. It takes a lot of chutzpah and a lot of conviction to run for any elected office in the United States right now. But you guys have heard me say this many times, and I'm going to keep doing it. This is our country. And if you don't like what's happening in the country, the only way to change it is to actually get involved. And the founding fathers said that it would require great sacrifice in order to do so. Your time, your treasure, and your sacred honor. You guys have heard me say this many times. Find good candidates and get behind them. Get behind them with your money. Get behind them with your voice. Right? Use your voice, and let's start to put good people in positions of leadership. So I'm very honored and excited to have Jessica Levson on the show with me today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, one does not simply just run for office. So I'd really like to know what motivated you. Have you run for office before?
So I was actually appointed to a city position. We call them aldermen. Some people call them city council in the city of Harrisonville, where I live. And that was kind of orchestrated in a really strange way. But I just happened to be at a church. I was church shopping for a little while back in 2017. And there was a man there that I'd kind of known for years, but he was an alderman, and he had spoken to me after we had like a church like luncheon. And he was like, he said, we were talking about the city, and I said, I really would like to be more involved. And he said, where is it that you live? And I told him, like, in the town. And he goes, we have an open seat.
Wow.
And he's like, in that ward. And so he quickly picks up his phone, starts texting the mayor, and he's like, Jessica Levson wants to take that position, And the mayor texts him back, and he's like, well, I already have a guy. And I knew it. I was like, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for that other guy. This is going to happen. And so I was making sure to go to every single city council meeting. And I remember sitting next to the mayor's wife and at Shauna, and she's like, why hasn't Brian just appointed you? I said, he said he had a guy, and I was like, but I just don't think so. And she goes, I'm going to have a talk with him. And so sure enough, I got a call that week. And he had decided, nope, the other guy wasn't going to work out. And then we had, of course, he appoints me, but then it goes to vote. So we have 8 aldermen, or there was 7 at the time, because I was going to be taking the seat. And basically the majority had to okay it. And so anyway, went around, everybody said yes, 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 except for the very last woman. And she said no. And it's so funny because afterwards, and I won't get into details about this person, but afterwards, my daughters were there, and they were, I think, like 15 or 16 at the time, and like maybe 12 or, and they were like, we just wanted to stand up and be like, what's your problem?
It's a family
it had no
thing
bearing.
too. Yeah,
Right. And so that is the position that I was in for a period of time. And I did run again, but I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when it came to running for office at that point in time. And so I didn't win. I was up against someone that was a former state trooper, and he had all this stuff, and and so it just didn't work out. But I can see now that wasn't really the best timing anyway for me to have stayed in that position. And so when 2020 happened, And, I have a decent Facebook following, although Facebook shadows me a little bit now. Say that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I had a post that went like over 48,000 shares one time, and after that it was like boom, like I don't even know exactly what happened, but it's like 200 people see my stuff on a regular basis, and that's it, and I'm like something's
Mhm.
happening here, but
Mhm.
it was a post about basically cheering on something that Trump was doing that was good, and
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
anyway, um, I I didn't feel like I had a big enough platform in 2020 when I mean, there was never a point in 2020 that I was like, "Oh, I'm scared." Because the thing is, I do not believe that the Bible tells us to be fearful. So I don't ever walk in that fear. And I looked around and I just knew that what was going on was evil. And this wasn't about a virus. And I didn't see enough people, enough of our representatives, enough of the senators, enough people standing up stopping all the insanity that was going on with these businesses being shut down and the way they were
Mhm.
handling schools and all of those things. And it was easier for me because I've homeschooled before. We've done public school, Christian school, homeschool. And at the time all my children were in school, but it was no big deal for me to switch over to homeschooling. Like perfectly happy to do that. I sell real estate. That's what I've done for years. So I have the flexibility to be able to deal with, the homeschooling. And I've also sold homeschooling curriculum for quite a few years, just because more than anything, I like to help moms figure out what to do. Because I remember being that new mom trying to figure
Right,
out
right.
piecemealing together curriculum. And
Sure. Yeah.
so it was really a difficult time because I didn't feel like I had enough of a platform to help people and to get out there and really do anything. So running for state rep, I really feel like it's going to give me an opportunity to do more for the people that I want to help. So,
Are you
in
running are
actually,
you
go ahead.
running, unopposed right now, or
No,
do you have a
no, I have two Republican opponents. The primary is everything for me. Here,
Yes, the
here it's
primary is everything here in Washington as well, yeah. Mhm.
because I will have the seat come the general just because we are a very Republican area. We're close to 70%. So, but the two people that are running against me, they're nice people. Like they seem nice, but one of them is older and she is a millionaire. And I have a really hard time believing that she really gets what's going on in our community. We're in Cass County and part of Bates County. Our average household income is actually only about $38,000. And I just really questioned that. This lady, she also was the vice mayor of Lakeland, Tennessee at one point, where property taxes while she was in office went up 65%. I've seen all the documentation on it. I'm like, we can't bear that type of thought process because to me, the fix of what's going on right now is reducing those taxes for the people, like as much as
Absolutely true.
humanly possible. That's what we have to do. We've got to put money back in their pockets. I had Representative John Patterson text me the other day and he said, Jessica, he said inflation this year for the average just small family will probably cost them about $5,800. And I'm like, we can't stomach that. We can't deal with that because a lot of people are
Right, right.
living paycheck to paycheck. And so
Yeah.
one of my main goals getting into office is really to work to try to get the tax burden down on these people through personal property
Right.
taxes and real estate taxes and stuff like that.
So how do you see So I want to find out a little bit, because you're running in Missouri, but this is a nationwide show, and this show is actually
Mhm.
heard, all over the country and around the world. And so a large part
Right.
of the reason why I like to have political candidates on here, and I've had several of them now over the last several years, is to sort of explain the process to people when
Yeah.
they're looking at potentially running for office. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'd love it if you can just talk to people who are thinking, man, I wonder what it would look like for me
Yeah.
to run and how do you build a platform to run for office? We'll be right back. So, Jessica, before the break, we were talking a little bit about what it takes to run for office right now. First thing you
Mhm.
got to have is a platform. So, if you are interested in running for office, you kind of have to know why you want to run.
Right.
And when you think about the things that concern you the most, and why you would choose to put it all on the line to say, hey, I'm going to put my name out there. Because you put your name out there, you're going to get shot at. People are going to lie about
Mhm.
you. Republican primaries are actually really awful. I
Mhm.
think it's a
Yeah.
general rule.
Yeah.
What's your platform? What's concerning you the most?
So I usually tell people that I have 5 children. And I want my children to have those same freedoms that I have had, the same opportunities that I have had. And I see what's going on in our country, and they've just nibbled away at our freedoms a little bit at a time. And I am not okay with that. I've seen the education is so I'm a big pro school choice person. Like when it comes to schools, I believe that a free market would be so much better. We need to hold these schools accountable. And I my opponents they preach about transparency in schools, and I'm like, they'll be transparent. They'll be transparent about telling you that your kids learn in CRT. They'll be transparent. Transparency is not enough. School choice is really the big thing for me, and we have a little bit of that in the Kansas City and St. Louis area. Um, they do charter school stuff based on the sizes of the communities, and but here in the smaller areas, the more rural areas, you don't get to choose and take your money somewhere else.
Education is the linchpin. I think
Mhm.
people need to understand that. People want, you wonder why we're struggling with socialist ideas in this country.
Mhm.
Education. You want to know why we're all upside down and we can't say what a man is or what a woman is. Education. You want to understand
Right.
the push behind transgenderism, education, abortion, education. It's all education. And yet our government, the state governments in particular, but also the federal government, completely complicit in this. And you're
Mhm.
right with the school choice discussion because the schools don't speak English, they speak money. And the only thing
Yeah.
they're going to listen to is money. So if a parent
Mhm.
realizes, oh my goodness, my school district is corrupt, I've got activists here, not
Mhm.
teachers, you should be able to go to your school superintendent and say, hey, I'm withdrawing my child and the money should follow the child.
Right, right. And I've noticed a lot of very liberal superintendents. So we've got one here in town. I don't know what side everybody sits on masking, but for me, I was not a masker. I didn't want my kid in a mask. So when I decided that I was going to let Elias go back to school, I went into the school board meeting and I watched and I was like, okay, what are you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to give parents choice. A week in, they took away that choice. And so I started working to try to get these masks off these kids. And so our attorney general here in Missouri, he actually had sent a letter that said, if your superintendent is ignoring the St. Charles judge ruling, so there was a judge that ruled that they couldn't do this. Basically, they could not force our children to wear masks. Health departments had no authority to do that. And so after this ruling came down, I expected that our schools would pull the mask or give you the option. They did not do that. And so I took that email that the superintendent sent out and I sent it to Eric Schmidt, our attorney general. And I also sent it to all the school board members that were ignoring me and the superintendent and all the principals. And I said, by the end of that night, the masks were off the kids. The superintendent had a cease and desist order to the school, and they were off, and they have not been back on since then. And I think that that's what I would really like to do is empower more people to stand up. Not only run for office because we have the same type of people in office all the time. They're wealthy or they're career politicians, or they're generational politicians, I
Yeah,
will
that's
say.
right. Yeah, that's
And
right.
our
Yeah.
our country wasn't established to be like that. Our country was a country to be ran by the people for the people. And that's no longer happening. But people have become complacent and apathetic. I was listening to Christian radio station the other day, and I can't remember who it was that I was saying it, but he said, freedom has to be fought for. It has to be
Right.
protected. You
Right.
can't
Right.
think that freedom is going to protect you. You have to protect freedom. And we all need to realize that is something that we constantly have to work for, is to protect our freedom. It's not just gonna stay out there, and people have to engage. I mean, it was wonderful that we were created to be a people that, I always tell people our forefathers really did want to be under God. We didn't have a king. We weren't supposed to have a king. They knew what the Bible said at that point. They'd been translated. And so we're supposed to be a people under God. So we're supposed to be ran under God. And that has been forgotten because people say, oh, separation of church and state. And it's like, that's just so the state can't tell you what church to go to. But it doesn't mean that we throw God out.
Well, and the separation of church and state is actually a nothing. It's a
Yes.
nothing burger, right? It's a
Yes.
misunderstanding of a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Church and the Atheists for America and the Freedom from Religion Foundation and all these garbage organizations have wrongly interpreted that and actually twisted it on purpose to say, oh, there's supposed to be the separation of church and state. When really Thomas Jefferson was trying to say the state can never interfere in the affairs of the church. The state can never compel you to become part of a church. And that's how it should be. And as Christians, we're not advocating for a theocracy either. We are saying we stand for and stand behind and promote the principles of liberty and the principles of freedom and individuality, which is the opposite of socialism, which wants us to be living as a collective. This is why they hate the natural gas industry. This is why they hate fossil fuels. They want us dependent on foreign nations for our oil. They want us dependent on foreign nations for our basic supplies. Our food supplies here are dwindling. Our economy's in a mess. And this is because of bad leadership. And we're never going to get out of this mess by continuing to elect, and I think you just pointed this out, the same types of people that got us here in the first place. I want to ask you really quickly about the economy, because I noticed that you put that in your notes as one of your talking points today. What is your position on the way that we come out of the recession that we are careening into?
Right. So we need to become producers again here in America. We need to stop looking outside of our country, because just think, as a human being, if all you do is consume, you're never doing anything. And that's the way I've seen our country become. We've become a country of consumers and not producers. And that's what we have to return to. We need our own oil. We need to be manufacturing our own things.
We can have it. That's what's so aggravating. It's we've got enough underneath our feet if they would just stop with these ridiculous regulations and roll back the regulations and drill, baby, drill. I mean, there's no reason for us to be dependent on Venezuela for oil.
Right. The regulations are hurting us so much. I mean, if we just look at that. So I don't know if a lot of people realize that, we're getting all into this electric car talk because people are being.
Yeah. Where does the electricity come from?
Right. Exactly. Right. I know here in Harrisonville, just during the winter or during the summer, when it gets real hot, power will shut down. We're not even a great big area, but the thing is, we could not handle the electric that would be needed for these cars. But let's go further, because our EPA doesn't allow us to even mine what's needed to create these electric cars. And so we're going to then be dependent on buying our batteries from China.
Right.
And that's so absurd. So, I mean, we just need to think about these things.
It's so absurd. Well, the whole thing's absurd. I'm going to tell people, and I think you could make this one of your slogans for running for office. The same people that are telling us that we need electric cars are the people that are telling us they don't know what a woman is. They're the same people. It's the same people. They care more about pigeons than they do about people. And I've got one more question for you. We got about a minute and a half left. You are running as a woman of faith and as someone who has been very outspoken about what you believe. What do you say is the role of Christians right now, particularly as it relates to politics?
So we need to know that our God is a God of absolute and truth. And God spent a lot of time the last year and a half. He would speak, I would pray, and he would say, truth, 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 over and over to me. So as Christians, we should be seeking the truth and we should be telling the truth. We cannot be afraid. We don't have to worry about being nice. We weren't called to be nice. We were called to be holy and righteous. And so we have to remember that. I think too many Christians are sitting back trying to be nice, and we need to speak the truth.
Yeah, or sacrificing truth on a misguided mercy.
Exactly. And so that truth should then lead to the building of the kingdom, because in September, God just started putting that on my heart. Seek the kingdom first.
Yeah.
And so
If people
when I'm speaking politically, I am always telling people the gospel.
I love that. It's so important. I love St. Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times. If necessary, use words. And I love that. Our lives should be devoted to the service of other people and to making sure that freedom is passed down from one generation to the next. And it's so important. And I'm really glad to see you getting off the bench and onto the battlefield for the area that you love and call home. Where can people find you online?
So real simple, jessicaformissouri.com. And if you go there, then you can find my Facebook page and everything else.
All right, jessicaformissouri.com. You know, I have a soft spot in my heart for Missouri. Some of my favorite people in the whole world hail from
Yep.
Lee's Summit. And
Yes,
so
I
I'm
saw you at church one day at Abundant Life. So.
I love me some Abundant Life and some Phil and Krista Hopper. You guys got some wonderful
Yep.
people out there. I'm glad to see you running to represent them. Thank you for coming on the show. It's just been a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi.
For more information on Jessica and her run for the State House, you can go to HeidiSt.John.com/podcast. Scroll down to the show notes, and I will link back to it in the show notes today. You guys, as I've been telling you for a long time, get off the bench, get onto the battlefield, put your money where your mouth is. If we want to see change happen in this country, we need to take these requests before the Lord and ask him for directions. We don't pray just to say thank you to the Lord. We ask him for direction. Father, what do you want me to do? Show me what I can do and help me obey. That really is the cry for this generation of believers. I hope you guys have been encouraged today, and I have appreciated you guys listening. You can find out more about me at HeidiSt.John.com. Also, don't forget for the study right now we're doing on discernment at MomStrongInternational.com. The Bible says we are to test all things, and we do that through understanding and knowing the Word of God. Thanks for listening today, everybody, and I will see you back here tomorrow at the intersection of faith and culture.